Theatral area. We find ourselves in what Evans called the theatral area. Notice the stone structure at the southeast corner, between the two banks of steps. Some imagine a political ruler watching ceremonies here, surrounded by over 500 people. We find ourselves on the southernmost part of present-day Greece, on the island of Crete. The purpose of our journey, Knossos generally, and the understanding of the past in the present and future specifically. Some have called it the Palace of Knossos, while others explain why using present-day language to describe the past will always create problems. But more on the role of language later in this tour. Since 1212 AD, Crete was under Venetian rule, followed by the rule of the Turkish Ottoman Empire since 1669. Little was heard from the island internationally until struggles for independence began in the 19th century. Western travelers began flocking to the island, drawn by the romantic scenery and thirst for Oriental exoticism. This also began the international interest shown in one of the many ancient sites of Crete, Knossos. After ample battle and rivalry between archaeologists and institutions of the West, Arthur John Evans, with the help of his connections and affluent background, gained access to begin the excavation at Knossos in 1900. It was Evans who baptized the habitants and culture there as Minoan, from the myth of Minos. Evans' unique combination of skills, intentions, and personality resulted in what can never be reproduced, nor reoccur. An archaeological site rebuilt, or reconstituted. Evans' work at Knossos was not only digging to find antiquities, but trying to actually rebuild the ancient site, according to his vision, to piece together what he called the Palace of Knossos, and try to achieve what it looked like almost 4,000 years before his time. An impossible task. After all, no one can know for certain what the past looked like. Minoan Basics. It is thought that the Minoan civilization exists North entrance. This is one of the 4 entrances of the complex. North Pillar Hall. This area is called the Pillar Hall. Evans also referred to it as the customs house, due to its hypothetical use as an inspection point for imported goods arriving from the harbor. Europa's myth and the birth of Minos. You may have heard of Knossos as the setting of elaborate myths, of stories of the labyrinth, or rivalries between gods and mortals. Minos, a central figure in the many myths of Knossos. Myth has it that Minos had divine origin. He is the son of god Zeus and Europa, daughter of the Phoenician king. Upon seeing Europa picking flowers by the sea, Zeus falls in love with her and decides to transform himself into a bull in order to approach her. Europa mounts the back of the playful creature, which quickly plunges into the sea, bringing her to Crete. It was there that their 3 sons were born, one of which was Minos. Soon after, Europa marries Asterios, king of the island of Crete. After the death of Asterios, Minos becomes king of the island. North Entrance Passage. The North Entrance Passage we are now traversing was initially built wider. Its narrower form was attained during the Neopalatial era, when the stone structures you see on both sides were added. The myth of the Minotaur. Minos marries Pasiphae, daughter of Ilios and the nymph Crete. Together, they live in Knossos with their 4 sons and 4 daughters. To justify his accession as king, Minos prays for Poseidon's help. Out of the sea, Poseidon sends a fine white bull, which Minos commits to sacrifice to the god. But Minos likes the bull so much that he decides to keep it and sacrifice another in its place. This deception causes such wrath to Poseidon that in return, he makes Pasiphae acquire a consuming love for the white bull. From their union, the Minotaur, half human, half bull, is born, and is forced by Minos to live in isolation in the labyrinth. The Minotaur is condemned to be seen as a monster. Bull Relief Fresco. North Passage. This fresco relief of a bull with olive trees and rocks may have depicted bull hunting, 1600 to 1500 BC. Central Court. We are now at the Central Court, the core of the complex. Some imagine that bull-leaping rituals might have taken place here. The Central Court was also the source of light and air for the surrounding apartments. architecture born from art. How can we rebuild a building without having architectural plans or references? This was one of the first questions Evans and his team had to face. Anteroom of the throne room. This room may have been used for the purification of those entering the throne room. It was here that Evans placed a wooden replica of the original throne. At Knossos today, one can see the stone benches here blackened by the fire, which many believe destroyed Knossos. Throne room. Evans named this room the throne room, after the throne-like chair he found here, one of his first. Throne or chair? King, queen, or neither? French historian Alexandre Farnoux writes, like Schliemann, who a few decades earlier had telegraphed King George I of Greece that he had just discovered the tombs of the Homeric kings, Evans invited the modern-day king of the Hellenes to sit on the oldest throne of Europe. The throne room, one of the most well-known reconstructions at Knossos today, was so named because it contained something that reminded Evans of a throne. However, even he could not decide if it was a seat for a king or a queen. Little did he realize that the question of who sat on this chair may itself have been misleading. Throne room. Evans named this room the throne room, after the throne-like chair he found here, one of his first finds at Knossos. At the time of the excavation, the seat was called the oldest known throne in Europe. In recent times, it served as inspiration for the design of the presidential chair of The Hague's International Court. East Hall. Evans considered this area to have been a reception hall, and possibly the actual throne room, since it was here that he envisioned a king exercising political authority. A wooden statue of a goddess may have been standing in this hall. Overlooking the central court, one can easily associate the floor level with the terrace level of the Piano Nobile opposite, where the halls of the western quarter were situated. East entrance. East Bastion. This entrance is marked by the East Bastion, which overlooked the Gerados River. This detailed system gathered rainwater for reuse, while also cleaning the water itself, ridding it of dirt. Evans believed the water collected was used to do laundry. Central Court. We are now at the Central Court, the core of the complex. Some imagine that bull-leaping rituals might have taken place here. The Central Court was also the source of light and air for the surrounding apartments. Priest-King relief. This relief received its name from a depicted figure Evans interpreted to be a priest-king. The fresco consists of painted stucco and features a man wearing a lily on his head, interpreted by Evans to be a crown, with peacock plumes. Procession corridor. The fresco of the procession Koulouras, West Court. The 3 circular wall pits were named Koulouras by Cretan workmen. They may have been used as sacred repositories, as well as blind wells for the disposal of water that collects on the surface of the ground. West Entrance. Evans considered this point the ceremonial entrance to the Knossos complex. West Porch. This porch would have protected the entrance from rain and wind. A paved causeway connects the porch with a theatral area and the royal road. Evans considered this the most elaborately planned feature of the complex. South entrance, with stepped portico. This must have been a grandiose entrance to the Knossos complex for people approaching from central Crete. This structure may be considered typical of the architecture of Knossos, which reflects the ability of Minoan builders to minimize efforts in the construction.